Calling everyone to order. Hello and welcome to the very first Zoom AGM of the Richmond Talking newspaper. Well done, Linda, for setting it all up. I just spent the entire day doing an online conference of which I'm one of the organisers, and I have to say, looking at my computer on a continuing basis is just a little wearing, but here we go. Basically, Linda will give us guidance anyway. There will be voting later, and there are mechanisms for allow you to do that. And also just remember to mute your microphone when others are speaking. So that's what it says here anyway. So I'm going to do what I'm told. Right, I'm now going to hand over to Linda. It says here, people present and apologies for absence. Is that down to you?
I've got, I won't read out the list of everyone who's present because you can all see from the screens. I've been ticking everybody off as they come in, and there's still people coming as well that I'm admitting. And as far as apologies go, we've got 3: Muriel Keach, George Andrews and Judith Anderson.
Fine. I'm going to mute my mic now, Linda, in accordance with the instructions.
Okay. Who's up next?
Linda, can you actually read the names of those who are present, please, for those visually impaired who can't read? You're on mute.
I'm on mute, sorry about that. So far, but people are joining all the time, so this isn't a definitive list yet. So it's Alison Whistler, Alec Thomas, Julia Jones, Graham Shortell, Gordon Baines, Gillian Davey, Linda Hance, Valerie Monroe, Alec Monroe, Alison Kelly, Barry Donovan, Jackie Venus, and maybe some more that have come in since I last updated. But I'll keep tabs on it. Oh, Wendy Grossman's here as well. And Tricia Rawson is in. I'll stop now because we could just go on like that forever. So who's up next on the agenda?
Is it Jackie?
No, Linda, you're reading the outline of the agenda, the timings, the format.
I don't know it, Valerie, because it's been changed, so I don't have an up-to-date one.
Okay.
So would you like to do that?
Right, well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The agenda is going to be kept fairly tight. We've got rough timings for our various presentations. We're going to be finding out a little bit about the trustees, just a very brief outline of who they are and what they do. That's called Meet the Trustees. In a minute, we're going to have our chair, Jackie Venus, giving us a short presentation, followed by the Meet the Trustees, the Treasurer's report, and then we'll have a look at some of RTN's achievements in the last year. And we'll be followed with Alison Kelly on our listeners' report. And then we go through the motions of the committee will step down and then be re-elected. And that's something that Alec Thomas can help us with. And then we throw the floor over to a guest speaker, who is Dave Kent, Guide Dogs for the Blind, and very, very interesting chap. So we'll be hearing all about that. So in a nutshell, that's how we're going to be running this evening.
And Dave will be joining us at about 6:50.
Perfect. So I think the next is calling on Jackie to talk about her role of chair and her experience as a visually impaired person and how the two really do knit together very well. Jackie.
You're still muted, Jackie, so we can't hear you. Right, now you're unmuted, so you can start again.
Yeah, it's teaching Valerie how to do double tapping. That's the trouble. Hello, I'm now the chairman of the Talking Newspaper. I'm very proud to be so. I took over from Alec at the very beginning of this year, and obviously we've not met him face to face, I think, since I was declared chairman. I was just going to give you a brief history of me, what I've done, and so you can see how maybe all of those skills link to my performance as the chair of Talking Newspaper. I was born with a congenital genetic disease, which was not fully diagnosed until about 6 years ago. I went through normal schooling. I went to sighted secondary school. It was only at secondary school when I struggled with map work that I discovered I had a visual impairment. Till then, I thought I was the same as everyone else. So at 16, they very kindly told me I'd never ride a motorbike, never drive a car, which my mother wasn't very impressed with their sort of approach to me. And I think that's maybe started my thinking about how visually impaired people were treated. I went to teacher training college in Eltham, southeast London, and again came across the situation of disabled people in education. The Warnock report had just come out, which tells of splitting disabilities into different categories and how we should all be in special schools or not, as the case may be. And that again piqued my ire, I suppose, and set me trundling along. In 2003, I had an issue with my employer who felt that blind people shouldn't be teachers. The union and I were taking him for constructive dismissal. With 2 weeks to go before the deadline, he said, "What if I give you disability retirement?" And the union said, "Yes, we'll take it." Because it means a pension for life, regardless of whether you get another job or not. So I took disability retirement in 2004. I became a member of the Visually Impaired Society of Richmond's committee. And I went off to Bristol for an Insight into Employment course for visually impaired people. Whilst on that course, I was co-opted to the Board of Trustees for a European funded course. And unfortunately, European funding was removed 2 years later, and those courses no longer exist. I then went on by default to become the chairman advisor. I was on holiday and they elected me as chairman while I was away, which was very kind of them. And I then started working for the borough for visually impaired people. I got involved with the RNIB. I originally began as a campaigner for the RNIB and went along to what they call forums, which were basic meetings for visually impaired people in London. I then got co-opted onto the forum committee and became the organizer of London Visually Impaired Forums, both in name and in the formation of the new London Visually Impaired Forum, which was a group of chairs of various visually impaired societies all over London. As a part of that, I became involved in the London Olympic bid, and we became part of the organising group. Once we had received the bid, we became part of the organising group that set up the London Olympics. In 2009, I represented Great Britain at the World Blind Sailing Championships in New Zealand, coming home with 2 silver medals, only losing out to the host nation. In 2012, I started my application for guide dogs. I didn't tell anybody, I kept it a secret. I carried on my work with the RNIB, campaigning. I spent a lot of time at Portcullis House, in the House of Commons, House of Lords, talking to various people, MPs, members of the realm, all those sorts of people about visual impairment and how it affects our livelihoods. after meeting Dave Kent and finally getting my guide dog Sky in 2014, I continued this work with the RNIB until, unfortunately, it imploded. And basically, a lot of the London work was pushed out to the local societies and never really continued. In 2016, I left the chair of the Visually Impaired Society of Richmond, having done a lot of work with them. Whilst this chair, I had met Dennis and Eve Moore, who some of you may know, and it was Eve who pushed me towards the Talking Newspaper Committee and eventually persuaded me to become a committee member, persuaded me to take on her position as listeners rep, which I was until last December time. I've done a lot of work in the local council with facilities for the disabled, for visually impaired voting, lots of things like that. I've got quite a broad skills base. I've worked with numerous other councils and bodies all over London. I'm quite keen on adaptations for visually impaired people and making things accessible. A stickler for doing it the right way and using the right terms, except when it comes to blind people. You know, people tend to say you're severely sight impaired. Well, I'm blind, and that's how it goes with me. And many other people would say they're blind. Severely sight impaired doesn't really mean much to us. But that's what I've done in the past. What I'm hoping to do in the future, with the help of my wonderful committee, is make Richmond Talking Newspaper the premier talking newspaper, which I think, thanks to Valerie, we're rapidly becoming. She's worked tirelessly during lockdown to keep this paper going, which many other boroughs have not been able to do. We've offered to help other boroughs, but so far nobody's taken us up on our offer. But that is what I do and what I'm hoping to do for the talking newspaper. And I shall hand you back to Alec for the next item.
Thank you, Jackie. I have to say, just to add congratulations, I think that the committee have done wonders, and Valerie in particular, to actually totally move our production operation from the church hall to a series of nicely decorated sitting rooms around the more affluent suburbs of Twickenham. Right, I think we've introduced a word here which some of you may not be familiar with: trustees. All the committee members are trustees, and that means something both legally and from the Charity Commissioner's perspective. And I think, looking at this, I think there's 5, 6 if you include the chair. And there's an item here, it says meet the trustees, each to say hello. And then sort of 50 words. I think you're pushing your luck there, Valerie, but we'll see if we can do it in 50 words. Right, so the trustees, I'm going to take it down the list as here. We've already heard from Jackie, who as chair is also a trustee. So the first one on my list is Valerie Monroe. So Valerie, you must give 50 words about you and anything else. Who's going to win the 2:30 at Kempton?
Well, there we go. That's 3 words. Well, most people know who I am. I'm sort of get myself around a bit. But what most of you possibly don't know, my reason for being involved with Talking Newspaper was the fact that my mother was registered blind. And when she was living in Southampton, somebody was doing a talking newspaper for her. So when the call went out for technicians for Richmond Talking Newspaper, I thought, well, I can't thank the guys in Southampton, but what I can do is do my bit for RTN in Richmond. And as I say, the rest is history. That's me.
That's you. Valerie, the next one is BD. This is Barry Donovan. Where are you, Barry? I can't see you in my little stack.
I'm here.
Good. There he is. There he is. Hiya, Barry.
Hi.
Okay, you've got 50 words to explain why and whatever.
Okay, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Barry. I've been working with the RTN for now three years. about 3 years, I think. Mostly on the production side, but that shifted fairly rapidly into sorting out on a wonderful new website and trying to generate interest on the social media side of things with varying degrees of success.
Thank you, Barry. That's what I call concise, and I suspect it was almost 50 words, so it's even better. And the next one is Alison Kelly. Yeah, unmute you. You need to be unmuted.
Yeah, I'm unmuted. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
That's better.
I'm Alison. I've been with the newspaper for about 3 years as a reader, and I've done some roving reports as well. And I stepped into Jackie's very competent shoes when she became chair. My background is I've worked in primary education, both as a teacher and then as a lecturer for over 40 years. And a crucial part of that has been ensuring access to reading for everyone. So it's with huge pleasure that I realise the role on the Talking newspaper allows me to continue to ensure that the written word is accessible to all. And it's been wonderful having contact with our listeners.
Thank you very much, Alison. The next one is you, Linda.
Hello, my name's Linda, as you can see or hear. So I first became involved with Richmond Talking newspapers as a reader because I love to read, and I had this idea that I would love to read out loud to somebody who couldn't read for themselves. And first of all, I thought I would go to the local care home and do that, but that was one-on-one. And then I discovered Richmond Talking newspapers, which meant more people could hear my voice. Lucky people. And then I was encouraged to join as a trustee. The thing I offer as a trustee is I have a higher national certificate in governance, and I've been a board member on several boards and trustees and clerks to trusts, all in voluntary positions. So that's what I bring to the party here.
Thank you, Linda. That's all valuable attributes. And the last one on the list, not by no means least, is the Chancellor of the Exchequer, which we know as Alec Monroe.
Here we go. Can you hear me? I've now been the Treasurer for I think 8 or 9 years, and it's not a very onerous task, just doing the spreadsheet and producing the annual report. And I've also done a few reports on little items that have seemed to be of interest, and you've had the joy of my Scottish accent a few times on the Talking newspaper. So that's me. I need to be away at 7, I'm sorry to say.
Alec, that's just as well, because you're the next item on the agenda, which says the Treasurer's report.
I wonder if I can, do you all have a copy of the financial statement?
I did send it out with the in the email.
Right.
With the
You
agenda.
did, Linda. I've got mine.
I can put it on the screen if you want, but I'm not sure you'll be able to read it because it's quite small font in a spreadsheet.
Well, give it a try. I'll be reading it from another part of.
Carry on, and I'll try to open it up.
Okie dokie. Right. So this year we've done awfully well in terms of income. It was largely donations from large donations, and I'll tell you the 4 that really made a difference. Hampton Bookshop gave us £300. Working Women gave us 360. London Borough of Richmond upon Thames gave us 1,195 from their COVID fund, impressed, I think, by our seeking to get an honour from them last year for our contribution to the life of the London Borough. And PayPal gave us £217, which I think was donations that people gave along with their PayPal payments or by a special appeal. And we also did pretty well in terms of personal donations. And here I think I have to accord a certain honour to Valerie, because it was to a considerable extent at her behest that quite a few, she provided answers to gardening questions to people at £10 a pop. And she ran a sunflower growing competition, and it raised £200. And all in all, it's done rather well. So with that and the tiny little bit of interest on our reserve account, we ended up with an income of £2,849. And then our overheads, which are the fairly predictable annual expenditures for which we really need to make provision in future years, came to the AGM. That won't be a charge this year, we'll be spared that, 110. There was a small charge for a rather large committee meeting. The insurance premium, as usual, came to £220. My apologies if it's on the wrong line, that £220. We didn't actually pay the TNF, Talking Newspaper Federation subscription this year, but we have subsequently paid it, so it'll show twice in the next year's financial statement. And we bought some stationery, that accounts for the publicity, and then we tend to give odd gifts to people who are perhaps retiring, and that came to £58. So our expenses were fairly low at 432 in terms of overheads. We didn't have the conference payment the big payment we made last year for people to attend the TNF conference, although that was a good buy last year, so perhaps that will recur next year if the vaccines allow us to escape from the pandemic. And then our purchases, well, there was microphones, there was memory sticks, and there were playback units. But compared with the last couple of years, our expenses on purchases were relatively low. And as a result, we had a gain on the year of £1,555. And so our bank balance in the Lloyds bank account is now 4,223. And we haven't touched our reserve deposit fund, which still stands at 1,170. And so we have tangible assets that might cost about £20,000 to replace. And if we ever folded and sold them off or gave them away to other talking newspapers, well, there would be a small fraction of that would come our way, I guess. Yeah. Will that suffice? Are there any questions? Did you hear me?
Yes, so if there are any questions, you'll need to unmute yourself and shout out. I think you got away with it, Alec.
I got away with it. Great, that was brilliant.
Well done, Alec. Is it up to someone to sort of accept the submission from Alec, or do we just roll on?
I think you can do that, Alec.
All right. Right, everyone. There should be a facility for you to waive or to vote. I'm not sure where it is, but basically, do we accept the Treasurer's report? Please indicate your approval or disapproval. And then, oh good, I can see thumbs and things being waved. You don't have to, Alec, it's fine.
It might be easier if we have people saying if they don't agree something rather than if they do.
Yeah, I think you're right, actually. If you don't agree, so let us know. But I think if we're okay.
Alec, it's Kimberly here. Is it subject to the change that Alec pointed out, that the one entry was on the wrong line?
Yeah, that goes back to, I think it's actually the insurance fee.
Insurance, yes, that's right.
Yeah.
I've moved that up in the subsequent version that will go to the charity committee.
That's just a typo, Kelly, I think.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, if everyone's happy then, we'll accept the accounts, and thank you, Alec.
Okay.
And I just, because I'm using the computer, I go and bring up the agenda. Right. Right, I think now it looks as though it's Valerie. You're going to do a brief resume of the achievements. I think one of them is to actually keep the thing going, which is a bloody miracle. So well done. Sorry, mustn't swear. Well done. Right, over to you now. I'm going to mute my mic.
Thank you. Linda, I need to share the screen. Right, okay. Well, first of all, this is to take you through some of the achievements of the last meeting. We have a brand new logo. The old one incorporated a newspaper in the vague shape of an audio cassette, which sort of became a little bit irrelevant. And here we have to thank Barry Donovan, our digi guru. The logo is clean, clear, and to the point. Absolutely amazing. And we have a new website. Now this connects us to the world of social media. We've got Facebook and we've got Twitter links. So if anybody is of a mind and they're in that social media circle, do please get your followers to follow us. And again, thank you to our digi guru, Barry Donovan. Now, the most important part of this website is that it's got a donations page. So if you come across anybody who really wants to support you in your endeavors for us, then you can send them very quietly to rtn.org.uk. I have to say it's a little bit less vulgar than rattling a bucket under their nose. And attached to this website, we've all got a brand new email system. So we are much easier to contact as members of the committee. All you need to do, you either put our name or our function. That's, if I'm going to give you mine, it's Valerie at rtn.org.uk. Very simple. And to the outside world, when we're representing ourselves, it makes us look really quite businesslike. Instead of getting an email from some idiot from auntiePlanty.com, you know, we are much more professional. So again, thank you to our digi guru, Barry Donovan. And we've also got a brand new WhatsApp system for the trustees to talk quickly and directly without getting tangled up in a mass of emails. It really is a great system, and it is actually secret. And again, it's thanks to Barry for setting that one up. Now, at the last meeting, we were quite cock-a-hoot because we'd made it to the shortlist for the Queen's Awards for Voluntary Service, which was the equivalent of the MBE for volunteers. Unfortunately, we didn't make it, but we didn't make it for a very good reason. There were 230 winners in all, and most of the recipients were very heavily represented in the North. And although we didn't make it, we were hugely proud of Visor who did, and they were only 1 out of 7 out of the whole of London that actually made the final list. And I was told quietly that the Lord Lieutenant of London was reportedly very cross on our behalf. Still, it was a shame, but never mind, we made the shortlist. Now, COVID-19, that presented us all with a huge challenge, and we managed to kidnap all of the recording equipment from the United Reformed Church before they locked the doors and turned off the heating. And it was a close run thing. And as has been said before, our neighbouring talking newspapers, Ealing and Kingston, although they've managed to record a weekly paper, but they were only able to upload onto the digital platform. They couldn't duplicate onto memory sticks. Now, for years, we've been eyeing jealously their resources in a purpose-built studio. But this is where it all came back to greet us. We were able to benefit from our refugee status. All of our equipment can fit virtually into 2 cardboard boxes. And their duplicating equipment was locked up in their purpose-built studio space in a council building. We offered to help, but the insurance ramifications and health and safety were just too much to be able to work it out. So we at RTN went into social distance mode. And it's a huge tribute to the way that the readers supported us in pushing themselves into new frontiers. Those who were brave enough to record remotely, we call them the COVID gang, they've done a really, really great job. And incidentally, we just put our 30th socially distanced edition together, and we should be suitably proud of that. We also upload onto our website, British Wilderness for the Blind streaming service, Alexa, and the mobile phone app. But we felt it was vital to keep that memory stick service going for those listeners who couldn't access any of these additional ways of listening. So just imagine if you've been feeling isolated under lockdown, just imagine what that added layer of sight loss might do to your sense of being. So the memory stick service had to happen, and we made it happen. So it's a very, very big thanks to all those who pioneered our socially distanced recordings. Now, we're not quite sure where this is going to take us, whether we'll ever get back to recording in the church again. However, it most likely won't be on a Friday. But it doesn't mean that those other readers, techies and admin are forgotten. In our tweaks, we now send out scripts on a Sunday. Tracks are recorded and returned by email by Tuesday, and the whole program is edited, stitched and duplicated and in the post by Wednesday. And this means that, fingers crossed, most of our listeners get their pouches by Thursday, which is a huge improvement on the old system. It's very nearly Christmas, and last year Fran Billington put together a wonderful Christmas program, and she's gathering steam for this year's production. So if you'd like to join in, the cast list is being drawn up as we speak, so don't delay. I know of one talent who's going to be doing a ukulele solo, so let me know if you'd quite like to join in. But we need to think of our next step. Volunteers are extremely valuable. And this is the moment to invite talents to try new roles. We're looking for news gatherers from a line of predictable websites. We need hands to twiddle the knobs, to stitch the weekly program together, volunteers to duplicate the memory sticks and walk to a post box. And this will all be done under training. Nothing is difficult. It's just your time that we crave. And we really want to embrace the talents of all who've associated themselves over the years to keep our talking newspaper going. Now, content. For years, our central script has been the Richmond and Twickenham Times. And over the past year, it appeared to be getting less and less local and more regional and very, very thin. And we were extremely worried about this, of what we would do when the inevitable happened, when suddenly something else wonderful happened. As one door closes, another opens. And this is Richmond Nub News. We must give thanks to this brand new family of local news websites. So Richmond has one, Teddington has one, and I'm quite sure other local villages will follow. The articles are very well written, they're relevant and completely local. And what's more, the Nub News family are proud to support the visually impaired residents of the borough. So we love them and they love us. So that's okay then, isn't it? Now we've got ourselves involved onto the beneficiary list of the newly launched Get Lucky Local Lottery. And this is something that the current Mayor of Richmond is backing. It's £1 a ticket, and 60 pence of that will go to the nominated cause. There's a £25,000 grand prize if you match all 6 numbers, that's the jackpot. But the call out is, if you know anyone who's likely to be playing this lottery, please get them to nominate RTN as the charity of choice. Remember, we get 60 pence of every £1 given. And finally, this is the time to really thank our volunteers, because without volunteers and their very, very generous donation of time, we wouldn't be able to achieve a talking newspaper at all. So big thank you from us. Thank you. And that's me.
Thank you, Valerie. Having been sitting here and listened to that list of achievements, I think it's incredibly, well, quite remarkable, frankly, what's been achieved. So congratulations to everyone on that front. The next thing I've got on the agenda is listeners' report.
Okay.
And that's from Alison.
Yep.
Hi, Alison.
Okay, and in a year like this, contact with our listeners has been more important than ever. And I'm sorry, Valerie, it is typical of you that you have downplayed your role in maintaining the right sort of contact. I love the way Valerie says we all the time. It was Valerie who thought I must go and rescue that equipment. It was Valerie who set up the recording studio and got us all going, recording at home. And her skillful editing, her selection of content, she's produced an edition that's covered the essentials in these difficult times, but she's also got this kind of lovely, lighter, interesting touch that's much needed. She's never lost sight of the needs of our listeners and the need to maintain a balanced edition for them. And I'm sorry, Valerie, I know this is the listeners' report, but I just need to say that about Valerie. She's been amazing. Yeah. Okay, and indeed, I reiterate everything you've said about the volunteers. Thank you for all the recorded stories, the quizzes, and so on. And also to the team who rang round some of our listeners during the first lockdown. It was a fantastic opportunity to catch up with individuals and to get some feedback. And I'm just going to read you a few little snippets from those phone conversations and finish with a couple of written contributions as well. So one listener said, I'm a big fan of the Talking newspaper, look forward to it every week. I particularly like the topical news items about Richmond as I don't get out. Another listener also really enjoys it. We struggle to get criticisms. We need some criticisms so we can develop and improve. But she wanted to let everyone know what a wonderful job the team does, really interested in local news and also really likes the In Touch piece. One listener particularly singled out, and actually several people did this, Christine James's The Where Am I feature, where she talks about her surroundings and then gets people to guess where she is. And this listener also used to get several Talking newspapers, but feels that RTN does very, very well indeed in comparison with them. Other people have enjoyed the quiz, the nature notes, and so forth. One of the bonuses of these chats, as well as getting to know people better, was it sometimes prompted ideas for stories. So one listener told me how much she was missing trips to the Isabella plantation in Richmond Park. So the next week we were able to include a feature on that. So now I'd like to read you a letter that we received from David Merkel that was in support of our application for the Queen's Award. I'm a visually impaired person who has been receiving the Richmond Talking newspaper since the early 1980s. To this day, I look forward at the beginning of each week to the sound of the yellow pouch being put through my letterbox, bringing me my weekly edition of the Richmond Talking newspaper. I think I'm able to speak for the visually impaired community in Richmond-upon-Thames, especially those of us who are either housebound or only able to get out with the help of friends or relatives, that the Talking newspaper keeps us in touch with what is going on in the wider community and lessens considerably the feeling of isolation. We're kept up to date. Especially important is the detailed information that's given about road closures and engineering works and alternatives to public transport, as well as everyday health and well-being reminders. It's only on certain special occasions that we can meet the volunteers who read the extracts from the local newspapers and journals, the production team and the dispatchers, but we recognise their individual names and voices, and I especially deem them as my friends. The RTN volunteers demonstrate that they care and have empathy for our individual needs, and I'm sure that they speak clearly, explain photographic content, and bring the locality to life. Richmond Talking newspaper, as far as I'm concerned, is a lifeline to the outside world, and I'm sure many of the RTN listeners would second me in this proposition. Well, we may not have won the award this time round, but a letter like this means so much more, doesn't it? And if we could just share my screen for a moment, I want to finish with a wonderful note that was slipped into a pouch from our listener, Irene Earle. I'll just put it up full scale so that we can see it. And I'll just read it. It says, "Thank you, team. Keep up the good work. Keep smiling, Irene." And there's a wonderful smiley-faced picture of her with her curly hair and a great big smile. So thank you, Irene. That absolutely made our year. It was wonderful. Thank you. Okay, that's it.
Right, thank you, Alison. What we need to do now is to re-elect the committee, i.e. the group of trustees that you all met or introduced to you. The system is that they stand down at the AGM. They've all said that they are prepared to stand for re-election. So what I would like is someone from the rank and file, not a trustee or committee member, to actually second the proposal that the existing committee be reappointed for a further year. Can I have some seconder, please? Kimberly, you up for seconding?
Yep,
Thank you.
yep, I'll do
Right.
it. I'm raising my hand. Thank you.
Good. And can we also therefore have a vote? All those against the reappointment of the existing group of trustees? It's easier to do it that way, Linda. Thank you. I don't see anyone that looks appalled at the prospect of you carrying on for another year. That's good. Okay, so basically the committee, the Board of Trustees, are shackled for another year of their duties of the talking newspaper. And now, has our guest speaker arrived, Linda?
No, not yet. We're running a bit early now, so you've got about probably about 10 minutes to fill.
Okay, well, I could do a
She's
tap
got a
dance
story
routine,
for us.
but I will actually, and it's something I will make available to you. I sit on a small organising committee for a technical conference for radio broadcasters, and you would normally meet in London for a conference, but today we had to do it virtually. And I produced a session given by Robin Spinks, who Valerie will know, and many of you might know. He is the Technical Innovations Manager for the RNIB. And he gave a magnificent talk on the basis of the demands and the requirements of accessibility. I think if I can, I will make it available to everyone the best I'm able. It could even possibly go on the website, I think, because it really was splendid. One, he's a very good talker. He is not completely blind, but he, as you said, he can see the big A at the top of the optician's chart. He can't see anymore. But one of the things that in discussion that before he agreed to do the presentation was how many people every day learn that their sight is on an irreversible course to decline, and it's 250 people a day. And that's a frightening number. Yeah, okay, late onset diabetes, macular degeneration, but nonetheless, 250 people a day learn that their eyesight is on a downward trajectory. And the use of technology is part of the story, but I have to say that the talking newspaper is more intimate. I think it's much more, it's warm. Technology tends to be a bit cold, but I have to say that Robin was an inspiring speaker, and bearing in mind it was an online conference, he took the precaution of recording his presentation. So I have to say it was the very best quality one of the entire conference. Although a feed from NASA, which we had as well, wasn't bad. But certainly Robin's was a good one. So if I can get permission to use it, I'll feed it over to, and we can put it onto the website. It makes fascinating listening. Right.
Can I also say that's prompted me to remember that I should have told you all at the beginning, I'm recording this so that we can put this AGM on our website as well for anybody who couldn't join today. And also to help me do the minutes because I couldn't keep up with everything.
No.
I can rewatch it and do them.
I can see the little red light at the top which said it's being recorded.
So all of you with all your little twitches and your little foibles, you're all recorded forever.
Yeah. Linda, has Dave joined us yet?
No, not yet. No, he's due at 10:02 and it's now 1:45, so we have 5 minutes.
Would you like me to say a few words about Dave?
Go on then, yes.
Okay, well, Dave Kent is the mobility officer for guide dogs for London, or was, I should say. He now has a new title, which I'm not even sure he's sure what it is. So we'll call him the London Guide Dog Mobility Officer for now. He is your classic Welshman. When we go charity collecting, or when we have in the past, he's happy to stand in the middle of the street singing to people and teasing people and taking the mickey out of anybody and everybody. He may well be known to you guys as the man with the guide dog on the TV advert. He was the gentleman who had Quince, the guide dog, and Quince stopped him from walking out in front of a moving vehicle on the road. And he always says that Quince saved his life. Well, Quince is now retired. He still lives with Dave, and he is happy doing nothing. He's happily passed on the reins to a new guide dog for Dave called Chad. Between Quince and Chad, Dave had a guide dog called Arthur. Now, Arthur was Sky's brother. He was a blonde Labrador retriever. But once he qualified, and he qualified with Dave, so Dave had fallen in love with him and he was going to be Dave's best mate for the next 10 years. He unfortunately sat down and said, no, I'm not going to do it. My sister can do it. I'm not going to do it. I've proved I can, and that's as far as it goes. Because Dave was London Mobility Officer, he had to be out and about without any shenanigans every day. Had to be coat on, off we go, let's go. But I'm afraid Arthur didn't want to play that game. So Arthur was retired to become a buddy dog. And a buddy dog is a dog that goes to a child or a teenager who hopefully in the future will have a guide dog of their own, but needs to learn about feeding and watering and cleaning up after dogs and what they can and can't do. And also the family needs to learn about how to look after dogs and what a dog means and how much of an interruption it can or can't be. So Dave gave up Arthur very reluctantly, and he now has a guide dog called Chad, who is a blonde Labrador, I believe. And his carer refers to him very much as a Just William type character. He'll be the one that will come out of the cupboard with jam on his head and swear blind he hadn't been in there. He's a lovely dog. Sky and him get on very well. And I'm hoping that Dave will be here very soon because I'm running out of things to say. But Dave is
program just a minute where you've got to talk for a minute.
Oh, I've got another minute, have I? No, Dave has become part of our fundraising team in Richmond. He lives in Hammersmith. He comes over to help us in Richmond. We've done collections for the rugby. We've done collections outside Whole Foods in Richmond. He's been out for walks with myself and another guide dog called Bolt, who lives locally. Some of you may have seen Bolt. He's a big blonde lab in Bushy Park. We have Heather with her guide dog Violet. We have lots of people in this area actually with guide dogs that you wouldn't know. And unfortunately, because of the way guide dogs is set up, we are unable to be told who they are. So if any of you know guide dog owners who you think might be interested in joining a fundraising group or might just be interested in walking with other guide dog owners, please let them know. Please let me know, and I shall join them up with the appropriate people. Our fundraiser is having a lovely time at the moment in Hampshire, in his country home, country residence, which is on stilts, and I'm desperate to go and visit because it sounds like a fun place. So, Linda, has our Dave arrived yet? Linda?
No, not yet. Sorry.
No, Dave. Right.
It's just that 18:50 now, so I'm expecting him any moment.
Well, I was wondering if anybody got any questions for me about what I've done in the past or what I'd hoped to do with Talking Newspaper.
That's a good idea. If you've got a question, unmute yourself.
I'll have to go and rearrange Jackie's camera because she's slowly disappearing. There we are. I had her on a tripod, and unfortunately, she then took it off and was disappearing. Thank you, Jackie. You and I back in the picture.
No questions?
Well, it's a very fundamental question. I mean, how does the guide dog know that he's working?
Once they've got their coat on, and we call their harness their coat, most people, it's they know that they're then in business. And they're usually okay. When you pick up the handle, they know it's for real, that they've got to start working for real, and there's no messing about. And as Alison Whistler will agree, Sky knows who's an owner and who isn't. And Alison has tried to pick up the harness and the lead, and Sky just looks at her with a very like, well, who are you? You're nothing to do with me. Having said that, when she's got her harness off, Alison is her best mate.
Yeah, I have to say I love my walks with you, Jackie. So we normally meet about twice a week, but I tell you, Sky is such a, and the way she works those tables at Crane Park, the community cafe. So Jackie and I are quite regulars there, to the point where, was it last week, Jackie, I went up and the lady automatically gave me our 2 Americanos. I mean, you know, that's what we're going to have. He said, you're a regular here. So me, Jackie, and I work those tables. And all the locals, it's great. Love it. So I'll see you tomorrow, Jackie, 8:30.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I have to say that wonderful arrangement was born out of the AGM last year.
It was Valerie, and I'm very, very, very grateful to Alison. I would not be without her, that's for sure. I'd have gone nuts in lockdown.
Well, honestly, Jackie, it's been a pleasure. I've really enjoyed it, but I came to you really on false pretenses, because I don't even have a dog. And you really said, is there anybody out there who has a dog? And at that time, I was walking a dog for a friend of mine who needed dog walking, but now I don't even walk that dog. So I just walk with you, really. It's just you, me and Sky. It was great fun. One day I'll get a Rottweiler and bring him along.
More than welcome.
Anyway, see you tomorrow.
Yep. Any other questions?
You know that people are very friendly when they meet a dog. They say, oh, nice little doggy. I mean, what are the rules really for a dog that's wearing a harness? Don't feed, don't pat, don't do anything.
When I talk to the children in schools, I always say to them, don't call a guide dog, don't touch a guide dog, and don't feed a guide dog unless you've asked permission. Because if she's working and I'm holding the handle and you call her, or any of the other things, touch or feed, she may well run out into the road to come and see you and not look after me, and then we'll both get run over. So it's very important that you don't distract her when she's working. And she's here now. She's just wandered in to say, oi, I'm listening to you. She says, I like being fed.
I have a question. I've always wondered, Jackie, how do they know where to go? If you're like, so say you want to go to the bus stop, how on earth do they know where it is?
Well, first things first is I have to give directions. So when we leave my house, I say, turn left, and we turn left to go to the end of the road, stop at the curb. I listen for the traffic. She doesn't. Then I tell her to go forward, and she'll cross the road. She'll take me along the path. I'll then cross the next road, turn right, turn left, and then I'll say, find the bus stop. They are taught to find bus stops and shops and the buttons on the crossings, and she will find those things on her own. And in fact, this one being very food orientated, she will stop at every single bus stop we go past. And she'll look at me and she'll go, I found the bus stop, give me a sweet. So I have to give her a sweet. So she's quite cunning. And
how do you know that she's taken you to the right bus stop then?
Well, if I was in somewhere like Kingston, where there's lots of bus stops, I may well have to ask and say, is this the R68 bus stop? And we're just having talks with TfL as to whether they could put onto their bus stops which buses stop at which bus stop. You know, like you can turn the light on with the button. We're asking them if they could put a button that also identified what buses stopped there.
So does this mean then that you couldn't just go for the first time somewhere you'd not been before on your own with Sky, because neither of you would know where to go exactly?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. I have to know the route. But that's saying that, if I know where I've got to go, all the other things fall into place. So, for instance, when I first went to Archery in Southfields, I got off the train at Earlsfield. I said to Sky, I don't know why Earlsfield station. I said to Sky, find the stairs. So she found the stairs, took me down the stairs, and find the barrier. She took me to the barrier, took me through, and find the door. She finds the way out. And then I knew I had to go right, so we turned right. And I said, find the button, because I knew I had to find a crossing. She found the button, we crossed over. And then she took me all the way down a very long road, weaving in and out of parked cars and dustbins and lampposts and things like that. So whilst she doesn't know the way, she does know the things that she knows, like crossing points, lampposts, bus stops, curbs.
You are extraordinary, Jackie. I mean, not only have you won silver medals for sailing, now you tell us you do archery. Can you talk us through that a little bit, please? How does that work?
Bowling and bowling.
Yeah, and bowling. Well, vision impaired archery is quite entertaining, actually. It's done with the same equipment that a sighted person would use, but we have a hand rest, and it's like a giant tripod with a flat plate on the top, and your helper lines the flat plate up with the center of the bull, and then you rest the back of your hand on that flat plate, and then you shoot your arrows. And if your helper has lined you up properly and you're holding your bow properly, you should end up hitting the bull. Not always so. But to keep us going, they put a yellow balloon on the bull so that when we hit the bull, we know we have.
And of course, you're a canoeist as well.
Yes, canoeist, rower, sailor, windsurfer.
And now Dave's joining us now. Dave's coming on in.
Right.
So well done on that, Jackie. Well done. Kept us going there.
Okay. Well, hello, Dave.
Hello. Can you hear me all right?
And we can hear you, Dave. That's lovely.
Fantastic.
Just to say, Dave, that there are now 18 people, including yourself, here, and that we are actually recording this session. It will go on our website, and so I'll be taking the minutes from the recording as well. So if that's all right with you, we'll use some of your stories for our future editions of our Talking newspaper, if that's okay with you.
Not a problem.
Right. Off you go.
All right. Oh, I'm straight in, am I? Wow.
Yes,
holy moly. Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Dave Kent. Until fairly recently, I was the engagement officer for Guide Dogs for the Blind London and the South East, but that role is now dissolved, and they really love these titles. But I am now the, wait for this, the Service User Voice Officer for the UK. So, you know, the title means, well, I don't know what the title means. I'm still trying to find out. But what that does mean for me, it puts me firmly right back at the heart of my clients and my relationship with my clients around the UK, vision impaired clients, and my love of guide dogs. So I'll be able to work with them directly, which is fantastic, and their families. So anybody that's really receiving a guide dog service. But let's concentrate on guide dogs, what they are, why they do it, and kind of a little bit of my story. So I was born with a vision impairment. I was born with bilateral congenital cataracts, which meant that my vision certainly wasn't normal. And I went through the blind school system. I always say that I was squeezed through the institutional sausage machine. and ejected at the other end like some sort of reasonably formed vision impaired person, but didn't have a clue really of how to integrate with the world, having come from an incarceration in a blind school. So having left school with no qualifications, I went to a college for the blind and I became a piano tuner, a noble profession by anybody's standards, but the life of, you know, ding, 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 kind of really wasn't all that edifying. I wanted to do other things and things that would challenge me more. But of course, you tell somebody that you want to be, you know, they say to you in school, well, what do you want to be? And you say, well, I'd like to be a rock and roll star. And they go, no, you can't do that. You're blind. You can't do, you know, you're not supposed to think like that. You know, you're not supposed to think of theatre and TV and working for guide dogs, God forbid. But I did. And through a torturous road, starting with losing all the vision that I had when I was 18, and then getting my first guide dog when I was 19, which was an absolute revelation and a joy. So from charging around, you know, the terror of my neighborhood when I was home for the weekend, I became this this different kind of tearabout, but this time with 4 legs. And it's been my joy to work since 1979, which is what we're going into our 42nd year now. Wow, of being a guide dog handler, and now working for the organization that I absolutely cherish and adore, and that has provided me with some fantastic guides, including the first guide dog I ever had, and I'll never forget the click-clack of her claws on the linoleum outside my room at the Leamington Spa Training Centre, and this chocolate-coloured, frenzied Labrador dived on me and then led me through a number of fantastic years. She ended up going blind. The blooming irony of it. You know, a guy, the blind leading the blind, but she did it so well. She's really super confident. I then went on to train and was partnered with a beautiful animal called Skip, who was so laid back. We called him Skippy the Ippy, and he was just a lovely dog who worked his time with me. Just a tale about Skip. I was walking through the shopping mall in Hammersmith not long after I'd got the dog, and I could hear this music blasting out from the shop. So in I went and found the queue and took my place rightfully in the queue, got to the counter, and the girl said, can I help you? Because she's from London. And I said, yes, please. I'd like Jimi Hendrix, the best of Jimi Hendrix, please. And she went, oh, no, this is Chelsea, Gill. You want next door. So thanks a lot, Skip. You know, you made me wait in the queue in Chelsea, Girl, for a while, but that was all right. He was...
I can't see Dave, but everyone is laughing because they're all muted, but they're all laughing.
All right. Yeah. Then I had Giles. Giles was a retriever lab that was a beautiful dog. Unfortunately, he got brain cancer and you know, he had a tumor, a brain tumor, and was retired early. But Giles, we would be walking down the road and, you know, we'd make a turn and I'd think, okay, he's doing his thing. And we'd stop and I'd hear this voice go, where'd you want to go? I said, oh, I'm on my way to the pub. He said, well, you're up my driveway. He, you know, he had his pranks like that, and we'd go in the pub and I'd be encouraging him, saying, you know, good lad, find the bar. And I'd feel a tap on the shoulder. And, you know, somebody said, hey, do you know where you're going, mate? And I'd say, yeah, I'm going, I'm trying to find a bar. He said, well, you're behind it. He had he had a thing for, you know, for bars, and he liked pool. I got Who did I have after Giles? I got Nixon. Nixon, a black Labrador, so black he shone. He was blue silver with chocolate button eyes, apparently, but a beautifully soft, but very serious, very morose kind of character, but like, you know, cool as a cucumber. And at that time, I was in a band and traveling all over Britain and Europe, and back and forth, all over the place. And of course, it was back in the days where you couldn't take a dog to Europe in the same way that you could now. But every time Nixon saw the tour bus, he would physically slow down and go, "Oh, no, not again. Oh, no, I hate you. I hate your band. I don't want to do it." But he was absolutely beautiful and an old faithful, and he worked the full time. Then I had the Alsatian from hell, Dan, 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 Becky. Or for those of you that know your Greek mythology, Cerberus, the dreaded three-headed dog that guarded the underworld, the gates to the underworld. So was this German Shepherd called Becky, and such an effect that she had on my entire being. She lasted 8 months before she was respectfully withdrawn from any kind of service. And we would be walking down, I don't know, Shepherd's Bush Road, for example. And she'd be doing all of this kind of weaving about and all of this sexy guiding work, or so I thought, but not a bit of it. She was following a bloody pigeon. She would screech at the drop of a hand. The slightest movement, it would send her into paroxysms of screaming. For any of you that know what a German Shepherd sounds like and what they are, it's like me, 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 me all the time, which is okay, but not, 4 o'clock on the Piccadilly line on a Friday afternoon, on a crowded carriage where people were, probably looking down the carriage and thinking, what's that blind bloke doing to that dog? But she would, she was not fit for purpose, which sometimes happens. I then went to Thailand and backpacked around Thailand for a couple of months to get my head together. And I came back and I got Reuben, my precious Reuben, who, along with Quince, who many of you might know from the Dave and Quince advert on TV, they were precious and probably the most well-mannered guide dogs, along with Skip, the most well-mannered guide dogs I think I have ever had the pleasure to work with. Coming up to my dog, now my present dog, Chad. Chad is a Lab Retriever. He's a white horse. He's a large lad. He's 39.5 kilos, but he needs to be to drag 15 stone of Welsh around. But he's amazing, and like his predecessors, provide an amazing level of support. And our dogs do this not only to me, a faithful guide dog handler, but also to many people around the UK and nay, around the world. And the level of love and companionship that every dog provides individually for every one of the almost 5,000 clients around the UK is an absolute marvel. And to feel the dog weaving its magic and keeping you safe, say walking across Hammersmith Broadway. I live in Hammersmith, not too far from you. I call it Glamoursmith. And like you, it's like Richmond, it's full of glamour and lots of other things as well that go along with that. Say going around the labyrinth of Oxford Circus on a Friday afternoon when it used to be kind of completely jammed, knowing that this dog, and it's a dog for goodness sake, that is guiding and bumping you into absolutely nothing at all, and doing that, getting you home entirely on your own, and on your own terms, I think is something absolutely to be celebrated and to be blessed. And long may I continue to work with people who can benefit from not only the guide dog service, but our children's services, where we support children and their families from birth to kind of have a better stake in the world and to have a better chance through being better integrated and nourishing families to have some different ideas and a holistic input into their child's development. The placement of buddy dogs with clients that will never own a dog, but could benefit therapeutically from a dog being in the family unit, and really bringing on and building the confidence of blind children who have additional disabilities, usually learning disabilities, but also children who may want to consider that utilizing the support of a guide dog later on in life. I think I'm going on like a soup sandwich. I am. I can take some questions.
Oh, you've been absolutely brilliant, Dave. This is Valerie here.
Hello, Valerie.
Now, look, we're in the age of technology. Do you think that the guide dog would ever be replaced by some little handheld gizmo in your pocket?
Yes, I do. I think that there will always be advancements in technology, but one thing that will never replace is the soul and the spirit and the the spontaneity, and just, you can't bury your face into an object. You can bury your face into your guide dog's neck, and you can breathe that wonderful smell of dog, and you can shed your tears, your closest, most tender moments you can share with a dog. You can't really do that with a piece of kit. So I think there'll always be dogs. I think it's a matter of preference. Some people might not want to be able to, or might not want to have a dog. They might not want to, pick up nitrogenous waste after your dog. But that's okay. They might not want the responsibility of having to groom a dog or take it out 4 or 5 times a day and walk it. So yeah, these gizmos will come along, and there will be gizmos that come along that will support guide dog owners as well, or guide dog handlers, as I now prefer to call them. You don't own a dog, you don't own a soul, and they certainly have souls. Hope that's answered that question, Val.
Thank you very much. Has anybody else got any more questions? Linda?
Yes, I'm just wondering about the duration of working life of a guide dog, and if nothing goes wrong, how long they can keep going for, and what happens to them after they retire?
Really good question, Linda. So in London, we're looking at anything from 5 to 8 years, usually, in the London area that we're working in, which is kind of central London, and I include Richmond in that. It's blooming busy, as it is in Hammersmith and Chiswick, and all round these kind of inner London boroughs kind of thing. Outside of London, you might add another 6 months onto that, but really we're looking to interview the client for a new dog on or soon after its 9th birthday. The dogs that are retired, you ask what happens to them. I'm afraid it's sack and bricks in the canal. I'm terribly sorry about that. No. No. Our dogs are beautifully looked after, and if we can't accommodate the dog ourselves, let's say if you live alone, and well, obviously you're not going to be able to give the new dog any of the physical and emotion, you're not going to be able to take the dog out really and work the dog. Because the attention is ploughed into the new partnership. But if you are living in your home with another family member or partner, absolutely you can keep your guide dog if the dog can be accommodated. If not, then there are families who will, and people who will adopt a retired or withdrawn guide dog. Depending on its age, it might be put out again, or it might have a different different job. We used to call them rejects. We call them career change dogs now. So the dog will be loved and looked after for the rest of its natural life. Good question, though.
This may be a very stupid question, but
Never a stupid question.
Are dogs bred to be guide dogs?
Absolutely right. And we have a £25 million breeding complex just outside Warwick. And our entire brood stock and our entire breeding stock go back now, we can trace them back over 60 years. So they are pedigree dogs and bred for purpose. We breed about 800 to 1,200 dogs a year. And we are the largest breeder of assistance dogs anywhere in the world. So dogs that don't make it to be guide dogs go off for other jobs, including our latest. We've sent 3 off to become COVID alert dogs, which is remarkable.
Absolutely, and very, very useful too, because a dog's nose can pick up. I don't know.
A dog, if you dropped a spoonful of sugar into an Olympic-sized swimming pool, a dog would be able to detect the smell.
Gosh, that's humbling.
Yep.
Very
so
humbling.
Take the chlorine out. Don't forget to take the chlorine out, because you do that, and if you don't do that, you'll knacker the dog's smell forever.
So does that mean, Dave, then, Linda here again, does that mean that your dog can tell you when your socks are a bit smelly and need to go in the
Oh,
water?
Linda, for goodness sake. No, I'm very fastidious with things like that. And the dogs are not allowed anywhere near my socks. Although I do know of guide dogs that have brought their, their owner's knickers into the room as a greeting instead of a smoky bone or a toy or somebody's socks. But no, I've not fell foul of that yet. Embarrassing though it would be. So when the doorbell goes, I close the bedroom door. It's practiced over years. Good question, though.
Does
Dave.
anybody have a question for Dave? Because we really have, we've worked him to death here. Any questions?
Dave, I was just going to say, since you came on to the Zoom chat, Sky has had her head buried in my lap with a, oh no, not him.
Not him. Right, I'll remember her then at the next meeting. Sky, for those of you that know Jackie and Sky, I had Sky's brother. I had Sky's brother for about 6 weeks. He broke my heart. I fell in love with him. He broke my heart, and then decided he wanted to become a buddy dog. He didn't want to be a guide dog and drag me around. So he was beautiful and is doing very well. His name was Arthur, or as we used to call him, Village, because he used to stand there with his, he was a tripod. He used to stand there with his back leg in his mouth like a haunch of venison. Guys, it's been my absolute pleasure. You're welcome to visit our website and familiarize yourself with our campaigns, which affect not only guide dog handlers such as Jackie and myself, but any vision impaired person. And we would encourage you to support our campaigns. So it's stuff like accessible transport. We've got stuff going on about e-scooters and stuff like this, which we would be very happy to come back and talk to you about another time. If you want anything like that from us, we'd be very welcome to share knowledge of that and what we're doing and how you might be able to support us in the borough. And the more of us that speak about these issues, shared surfaces, shared space, integrated transport, and the pestilence of these e-scooters and quiet vehicles, then we really would, and I personally would welcome your support. So guidedogs.org.uk. Good luck with the community, and like I say, anytime you'd value our support, and you think that we could nourish your community, please don't hesitate to ask.
Thank you, Dave. That's wonderful. Thank you. And everybody is giving you a big round of applause. But thank you very much indeed. That was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
You're very welcome. Good night.
We'll see you again sometime very soon.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much, Dave.
Linda. Oh, we're back to Alec.
All right, back to me. Right, that was absolutely fascinating. And what an amazing guy. And I still find it difficult to really understand. I'm sure I could put my faith in a dog, but if I couldn't see, perhaps and that was my only alternative, I think I would mostly learn to be able to do it. Right, I think we've come to the end of the meeting. Can I, from a personal point of view, thank Linda for organising and the support of the trustees who are now back in harness for another 12 months. I think it's worked very well. I'm not going to seek your opinions now, but if you have any views for or against, perhaps feed them into Valerie or into Linda. But certainly it's been pretty good, and I've been suitably impressed. So my thanks go to everyone who organised it. Thank you to the members and the volunteers who've turned up. And well, not much else to say other than that's me lot. So I'll hand back maybe to you, Valerie, or to Linda.
I think we're going to let Jackie have the final word.
Right.
Okay, hello people. Many thanks for all your listening and careful thoughts, and very grateful for everything tonight, especially to Val and to Alec for being our coordinator, and for Linda for setting it all up in the first place. And we look forward to seeing you all again next year. And I hope you all keep working hard for us during the intervening months. Thank you.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
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 Thanks. Bye.